On the morning of March 2nd, 2012, a man died. He died quietly on his game reserve in South Africa. His family was there. His staff was there. The people who loved him knew. His elephants did not. They were 12 miles away, deep in the bush, grazing, unbothered, unaware. No phone call was made. No sound carried that far. There was no way for them to know. And yet, 2 days later, they came. I'm Valerie. The world didn't stop being good. The news just stopped telling you. This is Good News Exists. And every week, I bring you proof. Before I tell you what happened when the elephants came, I need to tell you who Lawrence Anthony was, because this story only makes sense when you understand the man at the center of it. And I promise you, by the time this episode is over, you will not be able to explain what those elephants did. No one can, not fully. And I think that is exactly the point. If stories like this are what you need right now, hit subscribe. I bring you new proof every single week that good news exists. Lawrence Anthony was born in Johannesburg, South Africa in 1950. He grew up in the bush in the vast, ancient landscape of southern Africa, and he never left it. Not really, not in his heart. In the mid-1990s, he made a decision that most people thought was either brave or foolish, depending on who you asked. He left the business world, insurance, property development, and a comfortable life, and bought a rundown hunting reserve in the heart of Zululand. He renamed it Thula Thula. In Zulu, that means peace and tranquility. And Lawrence Anthony set about making that name true. He wasn't a trained conservationist. He didn't have a wildlife management degree. What he had was something harder to teach, an instinct for the natural world, and a genuine belief that human beings and wild animals could find a way to exist together. Not just exist, but trust each other. For years, Thula Thula grew. Lawrence worked alongside this local Zulu community, protecting the land, restoring what had been damaged, building something he believed in so deeply. And then in 1999, the phone rang. The call was from a group of conservationists. They had a problem. A herd of wild elephants, 7 of them, had been causing chaos across the region, breaking out of enclosures, destroying property, charging at people. They were labeled rogue, dangerous, uncontrollable. 3 separate wildlife reserves had already refused them. The authorities had run out of patience. These elephants were going to be shot. The conservationists were desperate. They were making one final call. Would Lawrence take them? He had no experience with wild elephants. He had never even managed a herd. The risks to his staff and his reserve, his entire life's work, were real and significant. Every practical voice in his head said no. Lawrence Anthony said yes. What nobody told him, what he would only come to understand later, was why these elephants were the way they were. They had been traumatized, chased, separated from family members, driven from land that had been theirs for generations. They didn't trust humans. They had very good reasons not to. The elephants arrived at Thula Thula and went immediately into a holding enclosure, a boma. While they adjusted to their new surroundings, an electric fence, 8,000 volts, designed to keep them contained while they settled, they were not settling. On their very first night, the matriarch of the herd moved toward the fence. Her name was Nana. She was testing it, feeling it, learning its weaknesses. Lawrence's staff could see what was about to happen. Nana was preparing to flatten the fence and take her entire family with her through it. Lawrence walked towards her. Alone, in the dark, no weapon, no backup. Just a man and a 4-ton elephant who hated human beings, and a fence between them that she was about to destroy. His staff thought He had lost his mind. He got as close as he dared, and he spoke to her. "Don't do it, Nana," he said. "This is your home now. Please, give it a chance." She stopped. A moment that nobody who witnessed it ever forgot. Lawrence would later say he didn't fully understand why she responded to him. He only knew that something passed between them in that moment, something that had no name. That night was the beginning of everything. What followed were years of the most unlikely friendship in the animal kingdom. Lawrence didn't manage these elephants, he lived with them. Night after night, he camped near their enclosure. He sang to them. He talked to them the way you talk to someone you love, not because you expect them to understand every word, but because the sound of your voice is itself a kind of promise. Slowly, over weeks, then months, they began to trust him. First Nana, then the others. One afternoon, Nana approached the fence where Lawrence was standing. She extended her trunk, slowly, carefully, and she touched his face, the way an elephant touches another elephant it loves. She was checking whether he was real, whether he would stay. He always stayed, but Lawrence's love for living things didn't stop at the borders of Thula Thula. In 2003, the United States invaded Iraq. In the chaos of war, animals trapped in the Baghdad Zoo were starving and dying. Nobody was coming for them. Lawrence got on a plane. He flew into the active war zone, drove through streets where soldiers were fighting, and walked into that zoo and stayed until the animals were safe. He received the United Nations Earth Day Award for what he did there. He was not a soldier. He had no military protection. He went because the animals had no voice, and he believed that someone had to speak for them. That was the kind of man Lawrence Anthony was. On March 2nd, 2012, Lawrence Anthony died of a heart attack. He was 61 years old. He died at Thula Thula, the reserve he had built, the land he had turned from a hunting ground into a sanctuary. The place where condemned, traumatized, dangerous elephants had found something they had never expected to find: safety. News of his death spread through the reserve. His family, his staff, the peoples whose lives he had shaped. The elephants were nowhere near the house that day. They were deep in the bush, miles away, as they were every day, grazing, living their lives. Nobody told them. Nobody could have. 2 days after Lawrence died, his wife, Francoise, heard something. A low rumbling felt through the ground before it was heard in the air. She walked outside. Coming through the bush slowly in single file were the elephants, 2 herds, more than 20 of them, moving with a quietness that anyone who knows elephants will tell you is not their natural way. No crashing through brush, no calling to each other, a deliberateness, a solemnity that made every human watching go completely still. They walked to the house, Lawrence's house, and they stopped. They stood there for 2 full days, some rumbling softly, some motionless, all of them with their presence fixed on the place where the man they had known, the man who had slept beside them, had sung to them, and walked towards them alone in the dark, when no one else would, had lived. Francois said afterward, they had not come to the house in over a year, and yet on the day Lawrence died, without any signal that any human could detect, they came. After 2 days, they quietly returned to the bush. Science has theories: infrasound, collective memory, herd communication that travels through the earth. These are real. Elephants are extraordinary communicators in ways we are only beginning to understand. But here is the detail that stops every scientist who hears it. The following year, on the anniversary of Lawrence's death, the elephants came back to the same house on the same day. The year after that, and the year after that. 3 consecutive years, same day, same time, every year. Science has no explanation for that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I think about what it means that we can't explain this. We know elephants grieve. We know they remember. We know their emotional lives are far more complex than most human beings will ever give them credit for. But the question of how, across miles of bush with no signal that we could possibly detect, how they knew the moment Lawrence was gone. I find that beautiful. Because I think there are connections in this world between living things that exist beyond our ability to measure them. A man spent years showing up for those elephants when the whole world had given up on them. He sat with them in the dark. He walked toward them when everyone else walked away. He loved them without needing them to understand why. And then when he was gone, they came. I don't need science to explain that. I think some things in this world are not meant to be explained. They are meant to be witnessed. And that is exactly why good news exists. Not because the world is perfect. It isn't. And not because the pain in this world doesn't exist, because we all know it does. But because goodness, real goodness, leaves a mark on this world that outlasts everything. Even grief. Even death. Even 12 miles of African bush at midnight. His name was Lawrence Anthony. And he was the elephant whisperer. And the world is better because he was in it. Lawrence Anthony's wife, Francois, still runs Thula Thula today. His son, Dylan, carries on his work. The elephants are still there, thriving, on the same land where a man walked toward them in the dark with a strong belief that trust was possible. If this story moved you today, please share it. Not for me, but for the person in your life that has forgotten that there is still good in the world. Today they need to remember. I'm Valerie, and this is Good News Still Exists, the loyal ones. If you want more proof that there's still good in the world, subscribe. I'll see you next week with another story that proves it.